Hi guys, welcome back to B&B Farms. My name is Tony, and today we are down at the sawmill, our Woodland Mills HM-126, and I'm going to be trying to fabricate a mount for a laser to help me align the logs on that, especially that initial first cut. This will be actually the second attempt to get a laser on this. The first thing that I tried was a 16 millimeter laser right there, and this mount right here. If you get on YouTube, most guys are using a mount very similar to this to mount their lasers. It usually goes right here. That's where they usually put it. And you can see the holes where I've already drilled to mount it on there. The problem I had with this is it's just not accurate enough for me. And again, I should give a full disclaimer here. We're not plotting a trajectory for a satellite to re-enter Earth's atmosphere, so we're just cutting a log. So maybe it doesn't have to be that accurate, but I'd like it to be a little better than what I was able to get using this mount right here. The problem I had with it is there's just too much adjustment in it. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. Wide range of adjustments that you have once you get it mounted. But what I found out was when you try to make those minute adjustments, they're not even. This bracket, it's just too light duty. I know a lot of guys are using it. A lot of guys are having success with it. That's awesome. Once you get it mounted on there and you never have to move it again, I see where it would probably work just fine. But I'm going to try and come up with something maybe a little more rigid, a little better, and something that will allow for some movement if something shifts, like maybe this door sags a little bit or something along that lines and you have to make an adjustment. If you've got this thing mounted rigid, then you know you're done. Or like in my particular case, I'm using a 16 millimeter laser and I'm going to switch to a 20 millimeter. So I don't know if this 20 millimeter will be the final laser that I'll end up putting on here. So I need a mount that's going to be able to move with me as I make changes. So yeah, that's about it. Follow along and we'll get started and see what we come up with. Okay, so my goal was to try and fabricate a bracket using off-the-shelf parts, commonly available parts, nothing exotic, nothing that has to be machined. Hopefully we can do it with no more than drilling some holes here and there, and maybe a hacksaw. I do have a metal cutting bandsaw. I may use that for some very simple cuts, but nothing that couldn't be done by hand. Most of the parts I'm using were sourced either locally from a hardware store here in town, or of course from Amazon. So I'll show you what I'm beginning here with. I've got this piece of rail that I bought off of Amazon, and again, I will put some links down in the description if you guys want to check out what I'm using. I don't know if you can see that or not, what the cross section of that looks like. It's just a rail that's got holes in it to mount, and they make specialty brackets that fit down in here that slide. But this particular size will accept the head of a 3/8 bolt. It'll drop right down in there and slide, but it won't come out. So I'm going to try and use this for our vertical adjustment. And to that, I'm going to mount this 90-degree angle bracket. It's 1/8 inch thick. I picked it up at, again, my local hardware store, and nothing exotic about it. I'm going to bolt that in there. My laser will end up setting on this bracket. I don't know if it's going to be on top or below the bracket. And this, I'm hoping, will let me get the vertical adjustment that I need. The laser itself came from Apinex, again, a very common laser manufacturer that a lot of guys are putting on these sawmills. This is a 20 millimeter laser, and the mount is just a solid block of, looks like cast aluminum, and you can see the laser fits in it, and it just clamps down over it. It doesn't, the clamping screw doesn't contact the laser body itself. If you look at my old one, you see those marks on the laser body? that's where the set screws tightened into the laser itself to try to hold it steady. I found that problematic too, because you can see where I've just been all over that thing. Once you make an imprint on that tube body, that's where that set screw wants to go from that point on. I could have sanded all that out, but I thought, you know, since I'm switching to a larger diameter laser anyway, let's just get one. Let's see if I can show that clamping screw there on it. Let's just get one that clamps around the body rather than bears into the body. So, rough idea of what this should look like. So we're going to take our bracket. This mount's going to sit on it, something like that. And again, it may mount underneath it. I'm really not sure yet. And then this will mount to the door. This bracket will mount on it. Should allow us to slide up and down for whatever height we need. All right, so we need to cut our bracket to the final length. So we have cut our bracket to its finished length. I'm going to mock up what I've got in mind here. I want to take this 3/8 by 1 inch bolt, slide it up in the bracket like that. This L bracket will set on it right over that bolt. We'll put a flat washer, lock washer, and a nut. It's really hard to do one-handed. So what that leaves us with, we're not going to tighten it of course, is the fact that this bracket will slide now. The problem is it will also swivel, and we can't have that if we're looking for rigidity. So that's where this piece comes in. This is, I don't really know what it's called. It's a flange nut of some kind. It's threaded 5/16, 18 inside, but the critical dimension is the fact that it is 3/8 OD, which is the same width of this track. In other words, this will slide into there, but it can't go, you know, there's very little clearance there. So this will drop down and we'll press it. Get it in there with one hand. There we go. We'll press it down into this bracket. That'll let this bracket move up and down, but there's no side to side. That locks it in place. Now this flange nut's a little too long. We're going to have to trim that down, so we'll do that next. And here's what we ended up with. We've shortened that flange nut, got our bracket in there. You can see that it still moves up and down, but there is no side to side, or at least very, very little, and that's what we're looking for. Our next hurdle involves mounting our laser bracket itself to this 90-degree bracket. I mean, you can see that this has got a couple holes in the base, and actually they do line up with the holes here on that bracket. So you could mount it rigid. The problem is, in order to project the line, let me get the laser and we'll stick it in here. That makes a little more sense. In order to project the line on the log, this bracket's probably not going to be at 90 degrees. It's going to be, or need to be, angled somewhat. So we're really not going to be able to use those holes that are already in that aluminum bracket. So what I'm thinking, there's a lot of meat right here in this bracket. So let's drill and tap right here in the center. And we'll tap that for a 1/4-20. We'll drill a corresponding 1/4-20 hole in this bracket, probably about right there. And we'll mount it that way. Here we go. So I've got our block set up here in the drill press. And yeah, I know I said we were going to use hand tools, but you absolutely could use a hand tool to drill and tap this. I have got the drill press, so I'm going to use it, but that's no reason that you have to have a drill press to do this. All right, so we've got our pieces kind of ready to go. I'm getting ready to mount this vertical piece on the door. I'm actually going to be able to use one of the existing holes I drilled for that old mount that I'm no longer using. So what this will look like is right about like that. We'll stick it on there and get it leveled up, and we'll drill some holes. Okay, got our bracket mounted to the door, got it good and plumb. I will say something I discovered: make sure if you do this that the door is shut and drawn up tight, because you want this door in the position that you're going to be sawing with it. So it's a lot easier, of course, to put these screws in with this door hanging open. And if you plumb this with this door open and then draw it up tight, it's not plumb any longer. As this door transitions from open to close, you know, the stress on it, it goes out of plumb. So take the time to close the door, latch it, pull it up tight, and then work on plumbing this bracket. Okay, we've got our sliding bracket on. Let's go ahead and start getting the rest of the components on there kind of mocked up, see what it looks like. Let's start with our angle bracket. You know, we have to have that 3/8 bolt in there, and it's looking to me like this is probably, the laser will mount underneath this bracket, so I'm going to kind of take that into account here. Put a flat washer, a lock washer, and our nut. Kind of loose, so we can move it as we need to. We know we're going to need that little nut bushing to tighten up that area. We're going to put it right here. Press it in. There we go. And our laser bracket itself that we drilled the hole in, mount it upside down. Snug everything a little bit right now so we can see where we're at. I think that's going to need to come down a little bit. I think that's going to be close right there. Snug that. All right, now it's time to start getting our laser in there and getting everything squared and leveled with the cutting blade. All right, I hope you guys can see this. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Yeah, it shows up. See that green on the saw blade there? Now remember, our saw blade is under tension. I've got this laser, this construction laser, set up back here, shooting down this way. So I've got that saw blade at the height that I want it. You can see that beam right here. And what I'm shooting for here is to have that intersect my new laser as close to center as I can. And boy, it looks like I'm really close right there. That's plenty close enough to start making some fine tuning here and fire this thing up. So I've got the laser on and mounted up the way I think it should go, and I've got it pretty close as far as indexing down the mill. I just used one of my short log stops, set it on the bunk up here by the mill head, And then if you go down that way, you can see there's two more sitting on that bunk down there. And what this let me do was turn the laser on and kind of establish a 3-point reference for where that beam shown, and I will show you how that looks. All right, the laser's on. You can see it's getting kind of dim. See that line right there? If we look down at the other end, focus. I think you can see that line, and that distance from that line to the bunk is equal for all 3 of those log stops. And then I just used our vertical adjustment that we made here, and I was able to bring this straight up and down until that line intersected the blade. So I think what's the only thing left to do at this point is put a log on it. So yeah, let's do that and see what we got. All right, we've got our first log up here. It's just over 13 feet. It's sugar maple. I'm hoping it's spalted actually, but anyway, for right now, we're just gonna make a test cut and see what it looks like. You can see the laser shining down the log. Pretty bright in here, kind of washes out today. This is a 50 milliwatt laser. The 16 millimeter laser I had was a 30. And so you can see that I wouldn't recommend going anything less than a 50. Of course, if it's a little cloudy day, you probably would be a lot better off, but let's fire it up and see what we got. So there it is, guys. All I did was drag the saw back. I haven't made any adjustments to it, haven't changed anything. A couple things stand out. One, there's a tooth terribly out of set. This is an old blade, so I think it's about done for. That flicker does not show up on the log. That's just the nature of the laser, I suppose. And number two, look how perfect that is. We have split that line just ideal. And I'm very, very happy with that. Get up here where you can maybe see a little bit of it. It's right down there on it. So I couldn't ask for it to be any better. You can even see it shooting across the top of the log there a little bit. That's awesome. All right, I'm gonna leave everything right there and let's wrap this video up. Well, I guess that wraps it up. We've got our mount on, we've made our test cut. Very happy with how it turned out. The mount itself is extremely rigid, far better luck than I had with the factory mounts that were a lot lighter duty. I don't think it's gonna go anywhere. Some of you may be wondering why I've got this extra space up here. I actually did that on purpose. My plan is to fabricate some camera mounts and put up here so we can get some of those action shots that we all like with the saw head traveling down the log. I'm pretty sure we can make that happen. I didn't touch anything on the wiring for this laser. There's two wires, it's very simple. I wanted to focus on the bracket because that's where I had the most problem. If you have a problem or you have a question about wiring it up, let me know in the comment section. I can make another video. We can touch on how we wired that up. So I guess that's going to wrap it up. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps us out. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks.